Okay, it is Friday, February 21st. I know I've been MIA for the last couple days. I have been sick as a dog. You did not want to hear my voice for the last couple days, especially early in the morning. That's why I'm recording now a little bit later in the morning. I've been waking up with the worst voice. It would have sounded like sandpaper to hear me speak. It still might, frankly. Today we're going to discuss Four Nations. We got the championship last night. We'll discuss robo-umps. We'll discuss the crazy Mark Williams situation. This is the Early Game Podcast. Listen to the show in the mornings on your commute, whenever and wherever, so you can be a part of today's sports conversations. Let's go. Okay, let's start. Let's put a bow on what I think we've done a nice kind of, we've come full circle on a fun topic. I think that Four Nations was very under the radar. It was something I was really looking forward to. I teased it a lot leading up to the event. It lived up to the hype, I think, tenfold for what I thought it could be. I thought it would be this insular event for hockey fans that would be appreciated and would just be a more well-received product than what we were getting from All-Star games in the past. But again, I will highlight again. I thought this was going to be something that would stay within the hockey world. I did not think that it would go as viral as it ended up doing, as the public ended up embracing this event. And by the day, it was more and more and more and more. And let's just kind of recap a general view of it. This ended up being an excuse to have America and Canada play twice in a week. That's what it ended up being. It was fun to watch Finland. It was fun to watch Sweden. But when you think about it and you look back, there is no memory. The first game of this tournament was a great overtime game between Canada and Sweden. Great game. No one will remember this event by anything more than the game the United States played against Canada this past Saturday night and the game that they played against Canada last night. So the question I have moving forward is there a way to make it a little even higher stakes? Is there a way to up it? And I've mentioned this in the past. There is one simple way to enhance this event to make it better in the future. And that is figuring out a way to add a Team Russia to this event. Whether you're let's not get political here. Whether you're going to call them Russia or not. The question is, are you going to punish players in your league who have nothing to do with the politics of the country that they come from? Are you going to punish them for their nationality being that country? However you might feel about Russia is a different story. But are you going to punish that group of players and punish the public from seeing them play together? Because if we call a spade, Russia is a top 3 country in hockey in the world. And I think that we can say that there is arguments to be made. You could safely say that they could beat Canada and they could beat the United States. Not as safe with Finland and not as safe with Sweden. So, as great of an event as it was, I would love for it to be an event that is not simply a camouflaged tournament that's really meant to just be the United States against Canada. Let's see the best in the world go up against the best in the world and not leave out an entire segment of that best of the world in the NHL. Now, the thing to keep in mind is the NHL, one of the ways that this Four Nations tournament works so well moving forward is that there are going to be 2 more international tournaments coming up. So next year is going to be the 2026 Olympics. They're already so there's no All-Star game next year. They're taking a break for the Olympics. So that's another international tournament next year, and that'll be more drawn out. And again, the difference between Four Nations and the Olympics, and I think it's a good difference. I think it's what makes the Four Nations unique, is it's so condensed. You already have your semifinals already. You're starting out with only 4 teams, and I think that kind of makes it great. No beating around the bush here. 4 teams, that's it. But next year, don't get me wrong, it'll be nice to see other countries get involved. Not Russia, but we will see other countries get involved, and I'm sure that we will see a very similar, we are going to see emotions from this 4 nations boil over into the Olympics next year. So that'll be for 2026. Then in 2027, there's going to be another international tournament. It's going to be the World Cup of hockey. And so again, if the NHL plays this smart, they can have their own international tournament with its own quirks and things that make it unique. That hopefully we shouldn't be tired of it. In 3 years from now, we shouldn't be saying, "Well, I'm sick of international play." So the NHL has their own unique tournament, and not just that, but if we continue having the drama boil over year to year, we will feel even less. We are going to look forward to it even more than you would think you would look forward to an international tournament happening every single year. And so ultimately, and everybody was talking about it. This was a massive win for the NHL. And not just that, but the memes online were Adam Silver rolling his eyes. What do we do about this? What should the NBA do to replicate what the 4 nations is doing? Now, let's go to the actual game. That sums up 4 nations as a whole. Let's talk about the actual game for a second. The lead up to this was something special. Comparing it to a Game 7 build-up, I think, maybe this is a hot take, this was better than any build-up to any Game 7 of any Stanley Cup. It was. It simply was. When you have 2 countries, everybody rallying beyond just the fans, so especially in the United States, beyond just the hockey fans, it was special. The media was totally embracing it, and yesterday was tons of fun watching online, watching everybody embrace leading up to the championship game last night. The thing I wondered going into this game was how good could it be compared to Saturday night's game? I think we all knew in the back of our heads there were not going to be the same 3 fights in the first 10 seconds, and that's not, there was not. It was going to be less about putting on a display and more about actually winning the game. First of all, I want to say, I think that the one thing that NHL needs to fix, start the game when you say you're going to start the game. Don't call puck drop for 8 o'clock and start the game at 8:25. The amount of, I was even thinking to myself, I'm like, you're sort of losing me here. Call the game for when you're going to call the game. Everybody was going to be watching that game anyway. You had the eyeballs last night. Everybody online was talking about your game. Start the ceremonies at 7:30. I don't need to be on there to watch the national anthems. I personally don't care. Call puck drop for when puck drops. And so the puck dropped, and what a game. We could not have asked for a better game. Canada goes up 1-0. Then the United States scores 2. Canada ties it up at 2. And then ultimately, in overtime, Connor McDavid scores to win the game for Canada and win the first 4 nations face-off tournament. It was a phenomenal game. Phenomenal. First, let's start off with the goaltending. Jordan Binnington was outstanding. People comparing it to the Stanley Cup in 2019 when he was the goalie, and but when he was the goalie for the Blues and they beat the Bruins. What a display from Jordan Binnington. Gave up a couple of dinky goals. Let's not let's not overshadow that. Nothing the United States did. Both their goals were nothing to write home about. But the goaltending last night was spectacular. Connor Hellebuyck was also spectacular. He was screened on the first goal and was just horrible defensive breakdowns on the second 2 goals. But let's get this straight. Canada's stars showed up last night. The Americans did not. Nathan McKinnon, Sam Bennett, Connor McDavid. Those three guys are your stars, and they scored, each one of them. No offense to Brady Tkachuk. Your goal was a dinky goal. And so on the biggest stage, when they were called out, when Canada seemed to have been called out all week long, they showed up in their event. Something that bothered me about the actual game itself, and about actual Team USA. We treated Saturday night like the championship game. Why did you put all your eggs in that basket? Saved nothing for last night. You played great, don't get me wrong. But why did we pretend like that game Saturday night was going to be the championship game? We lost in our own house. Nothing about that game Saturday night mattered, frankly. Nothing. In a tournament that we should have won, Canada came in and showed us they are the big brother. We are still the little brother. Now, the beauty of it is we can avenge ourselves next year in the Olympics. And don't worry, I will spin it that the Olympics matters more than 4 nations. Don't worry, I'll spin it. If the United States wins the Olympics next year, I will spin it that way. But frankly, I need to put my hand up and I need to say, I'm sorry. Last night, Adam Fox was atrocious. It is my fault that we lost. My fault. Chris Kreider, no show. My fault. I said Chris Kreider anytime yesterday to some friends of mine. My fault. Chris Kreider was horrible. Adam Fox was worse. Adam Fox left Connor McDavid all alone. All alone on the game-winning goal. So you leave Connor McDavid right in front all alone and you expect him, we'll be fine like that. What a horrible defensive breakdown. Fire Mike Sullivan. You know what? Honestly, the beauty of this whole thing, again, the absolute beauty of this is it mattered enough that I was so into it, I was so invested, but I can turn the page like that. I can turn the page. I can turn the page on this one. This one doesn't hurt. But I'm really looking forward to next year. I'm looking forward to next year, the Olympics. What an event this was. It was so much fun. Again, let's just wrap this up. The beauty of it was 10 days, 4 teams. That's it. There was something to that. I can't put my finger on it, but the condensed nature of this tournament was fantastic. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit of football here. We have one topic from each major sport today, and let's talk football, and let's talk Aaron Rodgers. So the odds came out a few days ago of what Rodgers' next team will be. Let's just go through it. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 teams with odds that I recorded here that I think are practical landing spots for Rodgers. At least most of them are. Steelers plus 300. Makes sense. Look, they need a quarterback. They need a reliable quarterback. That makes sense for the Steelers to be there at plus 300. There are 3 teams, though, with plus 300. The second one is the Raiders. Again, I could totally see the Raiders being this team. Give Pete Carroll a veteran to work with. Pete Carroll will whip up his defense. Another good fit, I think, for Rodgers. I think the Steelers and the Raiders are very similar fits, besides for the fact that I think it might be a little bit better with Pete Carroll. I think I'd rather try that offense than trying whatever Mike Tomlin has going on with his offense with the Steelers. Now, the big shocker to everybody, though, was another team that was plus 300. And that was the Los Angeles Rams. Interesting. So the question becomes, now when you look at these odds, you always think, what does Vegas know that I don't know? So plus 300. a team like the Rams, who has a quarterback, in theory, Matthew Stafford, people are unsure what he's going to do, if the Rams are going to run it again with him as their quarterback. But this is fascinating. Are the Rams really going to try to sign Aaron Rodgers? Are they really going to cut ties with Matthew Stafford to sign Aaron Rodgers? Does that make any sense to anybody? It frankly does not make any sense to me. What's the use in that? Why try? Why see if it works with another veteran when you know it works with Matthew Stafford? Aaron Rodgers has showed nothing this past year. Nothing. Besides for the fact that he's washed and he's hanging on by threads. Matthew Stafford at least shows that he is a quarterback who can play and still be successful at the NFL level. Now, the issue with Matthew Stafford in general is, in today's NFL, look at all of the top quarterbacks. We've spoken about this. They are all capable of running. They all pose a rushing threat. And Matthew Stafford notoriously does not run with the ball. You can give him all the space in the world, he is not going to run. And so maybe Sean McVay is thinking, let's change this up. Not that Aaron Rodgers is great running the ball, but he at least is willing to. He at least is I don't even want to call it a threat. He's done it before, whereas Matthew Stafford literally does not run with the ball. And if that's the case, if the Rams end up signing Aaron Rodgers, where does Matthew Stafford end up? There are a lot of rumors linking him to the Giants. Would he consider playing in the cold weather, something he's never done before as a home team, as a home quarterback? Remember, he was with the Lions, so indoors, and then he was in LA. And so is he going to consider moving across the country to New York to play in the cold weather? Something else to keep in mind is that there is a link between I believe a coach with the Giants whose sister is married to Stafford. It's his brother-in-law, I believe. So there is a Giants connection there. Now the other teams are fascinating on this list. So plus 500 are the Colts. Makes sense, but that would mean they give up on Anthony Richardson, which is fine. There's no reason to be absolutely married to Anthony Richardson. The Titans, who there are some murmurs now that that there's no quarterback that really attracts them. Maybe they'll trade down. So maybe the Titans bring in Aaron Rodgers. Now this next team is the most puzzling to me. They have the Vikings at plus 550. So you're telling me that the Vikings, who just drafted JJ McCarthy, who just had Sam Darnold have a very solid season besides for how it ended, and there's obviously the link there, but they're going to go a different route than those two. I don't believe that for a second. I'm not really sure why the Vikings are even up here. And then the last team, which is also very fascinating, are the 49ers at plus 650. So do we think that at this point the 49ers have given up on, I don't want to say given up, but we were so high on Brock Purdy for how he inserted himself into the league. He came back down to earth the past season and a half. And so we can kind of re-explore now if this Mr. Irrelevant, if Brock Purdy, was he a pretender all along? And we'll get into this offseason if the 49ers changing their quarterback rumors persist. Meaning this to me is the first indicator, the fact that the 49ers are plus 650 to land Rodgers. I get it. He's from the area. I get it. But let's keep an eye on this. Could the 49ers possibly explore changing their quarterback situation? Something to keep in mind. Okay, let's move on. So, the NBA was back in action. And the first night back, we got a little bit of a fun drama surrounding the Lakers and the Hornets. About a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, these two teams had a trade in place right by the deadline But then the Lakers got out of the deal. So Mark Williams was going to be traded to the Lakers. And then last minute, they did not approve his physical. And he did not end up being traded to the Lakers. So the Hornets and the Lakers play each other in the first game back after the All-Star break. And people were talking about this story because Mark Williams should have, in theory, been a Laker returning to play against the Hornets. Now, the game ended with LeBron James missing two potential game-winning shots. Fine, that's a different story. But the interesting part really came, and the Hornets won the game 197. But the interesting part came yesterday when Shams Charania tweeted, "Statement from Jeff Schwartz of Excel Sports Management. The overwhelming sentiment after conferring with multiple nationally recognized doctors is that the Los Angeles Lakers should not have failed Mark Williams on his physical." So there is an undertone here of sort of foul play from the camp of the Lakers. Now, Mark Williams had this quote that, the truth will set you free, something along those lines. I was giving the Lakers credit for moving in a direction where LeBron James is not making every decision, right? And so they traded for Luka, and I believe them when they say that LeBron had no idea that they were going to trade for Luka. And I was saying that this is a better management structure for them to do it this way, where Rob Pelinka is making the decisions and LeBron James is uninvolved. That being said, they're back in my bag races. That's it. It lasted about 2 weeks. This is ridiculous. Do not try to scheme the system and get out of a trade by failing a physical. That is absurd. Disrespectful to the game. Disrespectful to sports. It is disrespectful to the integrity of basketball to make a trade right before the trade deadline, mull it over for a couple days, and then decide they're going to get out of it by saying that the player failed his physical. How ridiculous is that? And by the way, the Lakers need a center. Let's not dance around that. And so that was ridiculous to me. I couldn't believe it. It was really left a bad taste in my mouth. And we got other news yesterday out of the NBA that Victor Wembayana is going to miss the rest of the season, the entire regular season. And this was, this came as a surprise because he had just participated in the All-Star festivities this past weekend, and then yesterday he's out for the rest of the year. And they're saying he had a blood clot in his shoulder. And from what I understand, conferring with a couple of my buddies who are, medical experts, let's call them experts, this might be worse than what we're seeing. There is a scenario here where this could be a lingering problem, and this might put more than just this year in jeopardy for Victor Wembayana. And so the Spurs get horrible news yesterday, and the NBA frankly gets horrible news that we're going to miss seeing Victor Wembayana for the rest of the season. Maybe the clot started when he was faking all those shots in the skills competition. Okay, let's move on. The last thing I want to talk about here, there's actually two more things I want to talk about in baseball. And so yesterday, Major League Baseball employed for the first time the robo-umps. So it's an automated ball strike system, or ABS. I'm getting this from The Athletic. In a big, it relies on cameras to tell an umpire whether a pitch should have been called or a ball or a strike. So the way it works is each team gets two challenges, and either the batter, the pitcher, or the catcher can challenge a ball or a strike. I happen to absolutely love this. I think this is the type of thing where we say, we're going to ruin the game, blah, 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 blah. But once we rip that Band-Aid off and we start employing it, we are going to be happy that we have it. It was the same thing with general replay, and it was the same thing with the pitch clock. It took a year for the pitch clock to catch on and for it to seem natural. But last year, you barely noticed the pitch clock. Barely. And it greatly lowered game time. And so we had the first use yesterday. We had the first use during Cubs-Dodgers. And 2 pitches that were initially called a ball on the field were changed to a strike upon review. So clearly we're seeing that it works. And again, I love this. Make sure it's fast. The player has to make the challenge very quickly, and then the umpire and then ABS then reviews it quickly, and we have that call within a couple of seconds. As long as that's the process, I love it. Now what they're saying is, what Major League Baseball is saying is, which I kind of find fascinating too, they're going to force broadcasts to get rid of their K-zone. So in 2000, ESPN introduced K-zone to their broadcast, where essentially on the TV you see what the pitch is going to be. But Major League Baseball now is saying that they're going to force broadcasts to get rid of the K-zone on the screen because they don't want to ruin it for fans. They want fans to, believe the ump, and then if there's a challenge, they see it on ABS. That's it. Another thing that they need to make sure that they're preventing is that managers in the dugout or anywhere that there's no sort of cheating, where people see on the screen and they relay that it wasn't a ball or a strike. So it's a way to prevent cheating, and it's a way to kind of enhance the viewing experience for fans at home. I love Robo-Ump. I will be on that. I'm going to jump on that train very early. It is great for Major League Baseball. And one last thing, this just came out this morning. The New York Yankees are getting rid of their long, despised policies. They have always not allowed facial hair, just a mustache, but now they will be allowing, quote-unquote, well-groomed beards. This is big news. They have forever not allowed players to have beards, and now they're going to allow, quote-unquote, well-groomed beards, whatever that means. First of all, the pinstripes clearly do not mean what they used to mean. They don't mean the same. And second of all, who is deciding what's considered well-groomed? I think they should have either left it as it was or just flat out allowed facial hair. That's it. Call it a day. But wow, I could not believe that they overturned such a historic policy for them. Okay, that's a show. Monday, we'll be back here Monday. We'll discuss whatever happened in sports over the weekend. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, like, comment, make sure you're following on X, follow on Spotify. Have a wonderful day and a fantastic weekend.